You need to listen very carefully because something massive is unfolding right now on the XRP ledger, and almost nobody is talking about it. This is one of those moments where 6 months from now, people will pretend they saw it coming, but you and I both know that we are noticing the signals long before the rest of the crowd wakes up. What is moving behind the scenes on the XRP ledger right now is not normal. We are witnessing institutional level activity firing off like a high-speed machine. We have ETFs launching. We have major macro catalysts stacking one after another as if it were the final boss stage of a bull market, and everything points directly back to XRP. This is why platforms like XRP right now remain essential, delivering constant updates and tracking ETF movements that I will be breaking down later this week. But for now, we begin with the most important development: a surge in unusual activity across the XRP network. This surge triggered an immediate alarm because someone, and I am not referring to retail traders or bored whales, someone with serious institutional weight has been hammering the XRP ledger with massive clusters of account set transactions. The volume is staggering, and it is absolutely not normal. What makes it even more astonishing is that this activity is happening even though BitGo has already stopped its own account setup wave. That means this is not leftover noise, it is not a backlog, and it is not some stray automated script running in the background. This is an entirely new entity showing new patterns, new timing, and new clusters of synchronized activity. When movements like this begin appearing on a blockchain, institutions never announce what they are doing. Instead, they configure quietly, they prepare silently, they build the back end long before their major moves become public. Right now, the XRP ledger is practically screaming that something enormous is being set up beneath the surface. For anyone who is new to the space and doesn't fully understand what account set transactions actually represent, here is the explanation that matters. Account set transactions are not normal user actions. They are not payments, they are not trades, and they are not swaps. They are configuration updates. They involve turning on multi-signature protections, updating cold and hot wallet keys, activating advanced flags, assigning domains, and customizing highly secure account-level infrastructure. This is the kind of back-end work that custodians, exchanges, institutional liquidity providers, and large asset managers perform when they are preparing multiple wallets for incoming flows. Nobody, and I mean nobody, deploys this type of configuration in bulk unless they are preparing for major movement. BitGo did this recently, which is why their spike made sense, but this new surge has a completely different signature, a different rhythm, and clearly belongs to a new institutional player preparing their entire system. Wallets are never prepared without a reason. Wallets get prepared for anticipated flow, for liquidity demands, for custodial requirements, and for incoming institutional volume. This is the moment where we can confidently say that something is coming. Analysts digging into the data have broken down the earlier BitGo spike, revealing that between November 7th and November 12th, BitGo's initialization wallet entered a faulty automation loop, producing a huge wave of account activations every 8 to 12 minutes. On peak days, such as November 11th, more than 14,800 wallets were activated. That spike was tied to BitGo's multi-signature setup and institutional infrastructure preparations, and BitGo later confirmed everything publicly, stating that no funds were lost and everything was functioning correctly. But this new spike is different. The patterns now show tens of thousands of configuration-related transactions across institutional-grade wallets involving rotating keys, enabling advanced flags, setting domain metadata, and preparing clusters of secure accounts. There is no question that this is not retail behavior. The conclusion is clear. A major institutional entity is moving into the XRP ecosystem, possibly an enterprise custodian, an asset manager, or even an organization preparing for a new ETF filing. And that brings us to perhaps the most stunning headline of all, the launch of the new 21 shares XRP ETF. This ETF is not a futures product and not synthetic exposure. It is a real, approved, fully backed spot ETF launching on Monday. This is exactly the kind of catalyst that forces traditional finance to look at XRP not as a retail speculation token, but as an institutional-grade digital asset. Anyone who understands liquidity mechanics knows how big this is. ETFs do not buy like retail. They do not FOMO. They do not toss in a few $100s. They move in millions. Current crypto ETFs are bringing in an average of $45 million per day. Add a new XRP ETF, and even if it brings in only $5 million per day, That still raises the total daily ETF demand to around $50 million, pulling XRP from the market. As ETF demand increases, OTC supply shrinks, custodial pressure increases, and market supply contracts. This is how supply shocks begin, and for XRP, this marks the beginning of an entirely new chapter. The executives behind 21 Shares made it clear that the only reason they built this XRP spot ETF is because their clients demanded it. Their clients are not average investors. These are family offices, private banks, independent asset managers, and pension funds, institutions that do not want to handle private keys, wallet setup, or digital custody. They want clean, regulated, plug-and-play exposure, and an ETF gives them exactly that. Europe has already watched crypto inflows grow for years, but the United States, being the world's largest capital market, is catching up rapidly. In Europe, it took 5 years to reach $3 billion in inflows, while in the US, the same volume arrived in just 3 months. This is the scale of institutional appetite. So why are institutions suddenly demanding XRP exposure now? Because they see the shift. They see regulation stabilizing. They see macro conditions aligning. They see wallet infrastructure being established on-chain. They see catalysts lining up one after another, and they understand how this market behaves when liquidity begins to move. Institutions always position early, long before the headlines catch up. Now, stepping back into the macro picture, we have a potential pre-Christmas shock announcement hinted at by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He said there is a very strong chance the president will make a major announcement before Christmas. If that announcement signals a policy pivot, rate cut expectations, liquidity injections, or economic realignment, the markets are absolutely not priced in for it. Any one of these catalysts is enough to ignite risk assets. All of them together becomes pure rocket fuel for the crypto market. December has the potential to be much larger than anyone anticipates, and crypto is already reacting. This becomes even more compelling when you remember what happened the last time the Federal Reserve ended quantitative tightening in 2019. Bitcoin performed a 7 times move. When the Fed stopped shrinking its balance sheet at $3.8 trillion and restarted QE a few months later, the system was flooded with liquidity. Over the next 18 months, Bitcoin rose from $3,800 to $29,000. This was not hype, it was liquidity mechanics in action. And now QT ends again. That means QE is coming back. You cannot inject trillions into the economy and expect crypto to sit still. The outcome is mathematically predictable. On top of this, the Treasury Secretary is openly stating that the Fed is leaning toward rate cuts. When rate cuts combine with the end of QT, institutional wallet preparation, and new ETF launches, you get the perfect storm for a major crypto breakout. Everything is converging at the same moment, and it is converging faster than anyone expects.